Okay, so good afternoon. I'm Anto Guriarjo. Welcome to Monday Live. This is something that we do every Monday afternoon to try and figure out the future for smarter buildings. It's good to have you guys with us today. In case you're wondering who we are, our profiles are listed on mondaylive.org, so head over there. And just to point out, the views expressed here on this hour are personal and not of any company or organization. Keep that in mind. And do post questions and comments on the Zoom chat to make this as interactive as possible. It's been great. And if you want anything from this slide deck, it's also available on mondaylive.org. So this being a new month of February, we are going to be talking about the AHR Winter Meeting, otherwise known as AHR Expo in Orlando, coming up next week, which starts on Sunday for us with the Smarter Summit. So we're all sort of focused on that. So our agenda today, normal news and trends chit chat, and then we'll talk about AHR and AHR, really from the perspective of preparing for the Smarter Summit 25, which is on that Sunday. So looking forward to doing that. But first, I'm going to hand it over to Ken Sinclair for an update from Automated Building.
Thanks, Anto. We too are feeling the heat of the AHR coming up next week. I guess it's earlier for you guys. You're online on Sunday, and we're following up on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. First time we've had 3 days of sessions and some 14, 15 sessions, so a record for us. It's all coming together. Lots of pieces, lots of changes, excitement happening. So we're looking forward to that. On the screen there, we have our summary of the last Monday Live, the interoperable cheese platter. I think that did a good job of summarizing what happened, and it also links to all of the other meetings, or basically Monday Lives for the month of January. So that's a resourceful link there. These are all linked on the slide. So if you actually download the slide, you'll be able to go directly to these. The Smarter Summit is, of course, I think we're going to talk about that today. The big thing is Linux is coming. I think Rick has some information, more information to tell us about that, and the featured speaker from Linux. So I think that's great that we can share some of that. We're a little late to be promoting this as of last week, and everybody's made their travel arrangements. I think we need to be a little more proactive in the future to try and get some of this information out. Other things that have happened in our world, the one I want to mention is that the Lawnmark booth, again, I think we mentioned it last week, but I want to mention again that there's a gathering at the Lawnmark booth about the cheese providers, and basically they're willing to talk to you about anything you want to talk about that we've been talking about in the last bunch of Monday Lives. We've had a couple of new sponsors come on, which I'm really pleased. OpenADR, we're supporting them, they're supporting us, and we also have the same situation with InOcean Alliance. And if you don't know who they are, they're a wireless group using the InOcean technology. I think a lot of what's going to happen in the future is going to be wireless, and so I think it's a good idea to see how these people are positioning themselves as well. The one slide up at the top there is the DeepSeek is an interesting quick view. Our contributing editor Suha is the AI person at Stanford, and she's doing a lot of lessons and teaching, and has education, trying to keep the folks in tune. And I just found that particular little exchange, in a matter of less than a minute, you can get some of the sense of what's going on there. And DeepSeek of course, has set the whole AI industry on its tail, and it's interesting. We've had some other posts, and all the posts are extremely well read. Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see how that all rolls out. Uh, Down at the bottom, this is just an article from one of our sponsors, one of the posts, but I kind of like the picture because what it shows is our cluttered world and potentially the clarity that AI could bring to it. And I actually believe that in that one picture, that's the way we kind of work, is with broken boxes and old PCs and stuff like that. And when we let AI and cloud native get involved in our life, it does come down to a clear screen, and probably even better than that clear screen, down to something that's manageable from our phone. So I think that's another great image that I'd like to focus on. The other one is we're going to see a film on a film. There's a good old word, on the interoperability building blocks, which is good because this thing has been planned for the last 2 or 3 years in the background of Anto's and Rick's minds, but we need to get it out in front of the public, and I think this film is a good start. So if you actually click on that, which is extracted from the film, it actually goes back to the IBB website, which probably very few have actually looked at as well. So I encourage you to go there. And on that, back to you, Anto.
Thank you, Ken. I'm in fact gonna put it back to Rick. So you're putting together a lot of the um, activities for AHR. So tell us about them all.
So yeah, we've been getting a lot of conversation about the Smarter Summit, and we'll go through what the agenda is in a little bit. I think 3 to 5. If you haven't registered, it's getting to be more and more interesting of what the agenda is and the different folks that are participating. I think we just heard that Keith is not going to be participating, but other than that, the list is growing more than contracting of who's going to be part of the Smarter Summit. And then, and that's in room W105, which, just Google it at the Orange County Convention Center. And then, yeah, the Super Bowl watch party will be at the Rosen Center Hotel, which is just a short walk across the Habit Trail from the convention center. We'll be in the lobby and or the pool deck, depending on the weather, for that. And then the sessions of Tracy's going to be in some, I'm going to one, and whether Ken's been talking about and promoting all the different sessions that are happening. I think this year more than ever, there's going to be more interesting discussions of those sessions. So booth 1190, as it says here, for the trade show floor, we'll be talking about everything to do with C4SB and Lawnmark and a couple other entities that are helping us sponsor that space. But and Jory from the Linux Foundation will actually be at the booth. We're setting up some different meetings if you want to have some one-on-one time with to get introduced to Jory from the Linux Foundation. She'll be there on Monday. And what did I miss? We're gonna go through the agenda a little bit more, right?
Yeah, we'll do that in the main part. So that
Oh,
should
and I missed the
do it.
workshop. The
Yeah,
IBB workshop is looking like it'll be a pretty darn interesting session. And Anto, maybe you want to give the latest update on that, but
yeah.
that
There'll obviously be quite a number of people that are sort of working on different aspects of the IBB. And the idea of this workshop on Wednesday is just to gather all of the people that are in Orlando that's working on IBB and just sort of go through what's been going on and what needs to happen. Just a sort of an overview. And if you're new to the IBB, you're welcome. Come and join in and sort of see what's going on. So that's on Wednesday, starting at 11 at W311.
Could I get back in here too? I forgot to mention that our newest contributing editor is Kimon, and he's the one who produced this film, and we're going to have it online right after Monday Live here. So that was an announcement I was supposed to make that I didn't. So just wanted to wedge that one in. Back to you,
Thank you.
Anto.
Thank you. The link board is always just there. Any other thoughts or news anybody want to bring up? Hearing none, we should just proceed and talk about AHR. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to play this film.
Sorry about that.
And let's hope what I'm doing here works. So here goes.
The cheese has moved. Remember the black box phones? We were trapped. Trapped in a closed system to wires. Trapped to desks. Trapped to payphones. Then freedom. Connecting anywhere, anytime. Open source is everywhere, driven by Linux. Yet buildings are black boxes, automated but not smart. The owner's data is trapped. Until now. The black box is gone. Open with the interoperable building box. Connection profiles. BIM and digital twins. Get it. Use it.
So I'm going to put it back to the slides for a bit, but we brought on Kimon. Kimon, thank you for that. A little bit of magic. Appreciate it. It's great. What motivated you to meddle with AI and do that?
Yeah, thanks everybody. Thanks, Anto. Yeah, we've been dabbling in different parts of AI for a while, and I've been kind of playing around with videos and storytelling, and in our work in the BIM world, we've always struggled with how do we explain complex concepts, and we've found over and over again that you really need to be able to tell the story. You start giving too many facts and details in the technical jargon, and people get lost. And a lot of the owners that we work with are struggling with understanding what is this digital twin and BIM, and the whole connection between everything. How does it all work? So I thought, okay, we've been creating a series of presentations like this, and I thought, well, I could take some of this material, maybe pivot it to leading into AHR, and so it's more of an experiment that turned into a video, actually.
Okay, well, that was a great experiment. Wonderful. Well, I'm sure we'll come back to that, but Rick, this is the agenda for the summit that you and the group has been working on. Do you want to go through sort of just maybe the first couple to get us going and have a discussion?
Sure. And the in that little animation of that video, we got to figure out where that gets played, but probably towards the beginning. But that theme of the cheese has moved will be part of what's at the booth. It's going to be part of what we're going to be highlighting in the entire AHR experience. And then, of course, the Linux Foundation will like the fact that you've worked in the fact that Linux powers most of the new advancements that have helped to open things up over the years. That's a key part of what we want to highlight with the fact that the Linux Foundation is coming to buildings as Ken said. That's going to be a highlight of this Smarter Summit, is that the Linux Foundation is acquiring or has acquired C4SB, and now C4SB is C4SB Foundation. And we'll be talking about, in that first section, we're going to talk about, I mean, some of the mechanics of it, or some of the actual details of, so what does that mean for the organization? But more importantly, what does it mean for an industry when the Linux Foundation decides to put a focus on the industry? And so that first section will be Jory Burson will join us from the Linux Foundation, and I think we've got some links to, or you can Google Jory Burson Linux Foundation and learn a little bit more about her too. But she is actually the vice president of standards for the Linux Foundation. She reports to Jim Zemlin, who's like a household name in the world of technology, and she runs all the different standards and specifications efforts across all the different working groups and sections of Linux. She's also one of our primary liaisons for as we merge C4SB into the Linux Foundation. She's taking the lead in helping us all understand exactly or maybe not exactly what all the details are about what it's going to look like to be to have the support and air cover of the Linux Foundation. A couple of us just got off of a call with her and Scott, and a few other people from the Linux Foundation are acting as sort of the guides for how to move into the Linux Foundation. But then again, more importantly, there went the slide. What we want to talk about in this session, this first 30 or whatever minutes, is that the Linux Foundation has kind of a pretty big agenda of anytime they come into an industry, they have the intent of very clearly accelerating the change and the adoption of open source, open standards to be able to drive the industry faster, the digitization and the modernization of an industry, which the timing is great, and then also what do individual companies, what do individual careers, and what do existing stacks of code, how do they benefit from what the Linux Foundation brings to an industry like ours? So that'll be the first section, and we may go over on that, and then these timing guidelines are rough at this point, but the next section is what we as the Coalition for Smarter Buildings have already been working on, and then what we are going to extend to work on in terms of new projects and new working groups. So we hear a lot about IBB, we've heard a lot about 2525, we've heard a little bit about TXO, we've heard some about like how things like OpenGIS and OpenBIM and other things could be more tightly coordinated with our industry. We're going to talk about all those different scope and potential projects, and then how do people get involved? That's the on-ramp mention. Next section.
But just wait before we go there.
Am I going too fast or too slow?
Too fast. Just pause there for a second. Then just for the group, for the Monday Live group gathered here, we started the Smarter Summit 2 years ago. It was in Atlanta, Smarter Summit 23. And it was kind of out of nowhere. We thought that we needed a venue to do something to progress the stuff that we've been talking on Monday Live for a bit. And now 2 years later, we got to this point where Linux, which is the largest IT open source organization or coding organization, is basically coming into this industry, bringing its strength and its sort of credibility to C4SB to make this sort of impact. I'd love to get your thoughts of the Monday Live crew here. What you think about this sort of evolution that's happened over the last couple of years? Quite a lot of impact, I would imagine this is going to bring. Would love to get your thoughts. Tracy, you want to start?
Sure. I think it's kind of interesting. Nothing happens fast in our industry, but this seems kind of fast to me. You know what I mean? I think that tying up here with Linux is really a key turning point in the effort that we've been pushing forward for decades, quite literally, to try to create open, interoperable systems. So I'm excited about this one. It's good to have representatives from the Linux Foundation be there and be a part of this, as well as some people who will represent sort of the voice of the customer. So I'm excited to see what comes of all of this, to say the least.
Jim, your thoughts on how
Sure,
far
sure.
we've come in 2
Sure,
years?
I'm excited too. I think that we have come a long way, but I'm also excited that as the Linux Foundation comes in, they're coming in uh, with our guidance rather than others that have tried to disrupt the industry coming in without really understanding the nuance of the channel or how things work. I think we have a chance as a group to make this disruption stick by making sure that how the Linux Foundation comes into the industry is intelligent.
That is a great point, Jim, that it's grassroots from within our industry and not an outsider with proprietary interests coming in trying to pretend that this is going to go open and be totally interoperable and so forth. So
Exactly.
yeah.
Great point. Steve, what's your thoughts?
I think, as I've mentioned in the past couple of weeks, this transition from emphasis on protocols to applications and application interoperability is what this is all about. And to have Linux Foundation legitimize us in this effort, and not just legitimize it, but help fuel interest and support from the companies and suppliers that we all work with is terrific, because it means we have I think a much louder megaphone, if you will, for getting driving this change. And so I'm very excited that they have said, hey, we want to do this. We want to see buildings truly get smart. And we've been obviously very successful in other industries, other markets. And to the point that has just been made about they're partnering with us as opposed to just coming in saying, we're just going to do this on our own. Because, I've certainly seen over the years many individually large companies try to enter our space who thought they knew what they were getting into, and then found out it wasn't exactly what they had in mind. So it's nice to be able to work with them as for sure.
Great. Thanks, Steve. Ken, a long way. We've traveled a long way in 2 years.
I'm sorry?
We've traveled a long way in 2 years since we started this summit in Atlanta.
For sure, for sure, for sure. I cannot believe the amount of people we've touched outside of the industry. And also the other interesting thing for me is the global connection. Like what we're doing here, we always have this North American look at it. But there's also a global look, and Linux is certainly a global community as well. So we're getting all kinds of touch and reaction from the world as well as what's going on here. And as the Linux people start to look at what it is we're doing, I think they're having the realization that, yes, this is a good fit, and we need to be part of the mosaic that they have created. And it's just a gigantic growth, and our theme for AHR is scaling. And I think this is going to be in all our minds, that we've never really been able to scale. I think Jim Lee always did a great job of reminding us that we weren't selling Coca-Cola, and we were kind of still a niche market, even though we're selling 10,000s of things. We're not selling millions of things, but we're touching the communities that are selling millions of things, and we're getting connected to data from the millions of things, and it's just a whole new world. So I'm pretty excited about it.
So one of the sort of threads in the discussion over the past 2 years that actually started in Atlanta was this sort of the problem that we were sort of presenting was that there was a challenge in terms of how the supply side asked the industry was communicating or was not communicating to the demand side, meaning the building owners. So that's sort of one of the problems that we set out as being the primary challenge in Atlanta. So Rick, the next two section here in this agenda sort of goes directly at that. Can you
Yeah.
elaborate on that?
Yeah, one of the key things we talked about in the last couple of years was this whole supply and demand, right? The owners don't know what to ask for, and oh gosh, uh, vendors don't know what to suggest, and so that stalemate needs to be broken in terms of bringing people together and saying, here's what's possible. What do you think of that? Um, and there's been constantly this, well, we need to get the voice of the customer involved. We need to find out more from the leaders. And so for this section of the Smarter Summit, um, we're going to have Kim on, and then Al Newell from Climatech are going to talk about this RFP that a bunch of us have heard about, we've alluded to, we've talked about, but this 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 RFP from the Los Angeles Area Community College District that had a very sort of ambitious, or to some people it sounded ambitious, scope of what this customer wanted to be able to have digitized and connected, and all these disparate silos that needed to be connected, and data needs to be abstracted and extracted and transformed and loaded and made available to a digital twin decision-making sort of system. It's a mouthful, but the RFP itself is hundreds of digital pages. But we're going to try and sum up what it was that the customer was asking for, because it's a great representation of a very common desire of what the demand side would really like to have, and then and they weren't afraid to like put it out there of like, okay, vendors, what do you have to offer that can come close to accomplishing what I'm expressing here. And I think that'll be the RFP has not been awarded yet, but we can talk about what it is that the owner was expressing they wanted. And
And the two keywords are they wanted a digital twin.
yeah,
Right.
they put the label digital twin on it, and we're like, great, somebody's finally calling this whole this whole mashing up of all this capability, put a label on it, and they're calling it, we want a digital twin, and here's what we want it to be able to do, and here's all the systems we want it to be able to sit on top of. And oh yeah, sure, we want AI and we want chat bots and we want all those things as well. But that so instead of a very narrow definition of digital twin, this RFP is a very broad definition of digital twin, wide and deep. And
But very specific in terms of why they need it for decision making support.
yeah, they they right there in the RFP, they say we feel like we're 30% off of our efficiency, goals, and by, total cost of ownership efficiency, and they probably have, $45 a square foot per year, total cost of ownership right now. And so 30% of that would be $15 a square foot of waste that's kind of happening. And they are able to calculate that that's probably true. That's probably conservative, is what it's costing them to have disconnected system and lack of decision making ability across these different domains. So not only do they know what they're going to get if they can, they know what they can, what the benefits can be. They can articulate that. They have articulated it. What they're looking for is vendors that can actually provide it. And so it's a great example of where the supply and demand has been a mismatch. Now, again, they haven't awarded it. They haven't picked a winner, but they know what the benefits would be if they could get it, and they know what they want it to be able to accomplish. So we're gonna pick that apart a little bit during that session of the Smart Summit.
So, Kimon, could you dig in a little bit more on that? Not too much, but in terms of the BIM aspect of that, because that's part of what they wanted to digital twin together.
Yeah. Yeah. So what's interesting is the connection between through digital twins of connecting their BIM information, which they have a lot of buildings, which are the actual assets and locations of things, and wanting to connect it to the other systems. So obviously that's a match that a lot of people are talking about wanting, and the owners are asking for it. And I think it's an opportunity for us to respond to that. And like Rick said, it was a big vision, but I also want to kind of stress the fact that from the BIM world, especially too, we've been going for decades talking about the complexity of all this, and yeah, more aspirational, and even talking about, oh, we have smart buildings now and we have smart cities. They're still dumb, in my opinion. The systems and utility. I mean, look at what happened in Los Angeles. Another reason I actually made this video. I got so upset. I live in Pasadena and watching this fire go by, and Edison's sensors didn't even turn their wires off. I mean, you don't take much to be able to do that, but these systems are not talking to each other, and it doesn't have to be that complex. But LA definitely has a big vision because they have limited resources, which we've been working on with them for years too, which is actually a good thing. When you're constrained, it forces you to be efficient. If you have unlimited resources, with a lot of agencies that we know about, they can have unlimited throwing stuff away. So I think that's kind of an interesting opportunity there to kind of say, well, if there are solutions that you can get right away. And then the other thing is that we don't have to wait for years or decades again to actually implement a lot of this. Let's just start. I mean, that's our charge as an industry. We have the technology and the capability. There's a demand, and we need to just stop talking about it, because this talk's been going on for decades now. The need for interoperability and the hemming and hawing about, oh, we don't have open standards, and oh yeah, nothing's going to work and nobody's going to pay for it. And anyway, that's just my soapbox view.
That's why we're having you be part of hosting that session.
Yeah. So Kimon and myself will do that 3:45 session, the response to deliver open solution that opportunity was speaking to. So that's great. Any thoughts or comments from the rest of the group? Working with IBB, what's that all about? Rick?
So over the past year, well, when we announced IBB, when did we first say IBB? Was that a year ago?
Yes.
Yeah. So over the past year, we did a little update at Realcomm, big update. But there's just been continuing work on different companies and different components, different people contributing to moving the IBB forward, and that's a lot. That's a big statement, because the IBB is a lot of pieces. So I think one of the key demonstrations, Matt Holler will be showing a couple of things that he's been working on. Al will show the Symmetrics, secured by Symmetrics IBB implementation. And it'll lead into a couple other demos, but just sticking with that for a minute, the weekly and sometimes bi-weekly calls that have been happening is to build out the IBB, whether it's connection profiles or applications or communications details. There's just been a ton of work, and we want to highlight and and acknowledge some of the people that have been working on that, the details that make the IBB real. So that session will be a good update. Probably an opportunity also for people to like form some questions about, oh wow, this is pretty impressive. Now, how do I make my code work there, or how does my company take advantage of it? Should I roll into the 4:15 session?
Wondering, Jim, if you wanted to make a comment on or two about what you're doing with respect to IBB.
Well, I think IBB has been, something we've been talking about for several years. I think that, there's been condensed matter for some time. But what we're really trying to do is show some real world applications. So how IBB can be used for monitoring existing systems. So our particular interest is cybersecurity and hosting some of our cybersecurity applications. We call it an appliance on top of IBB. So those are some of the kinds of things we'll do, and very much looking forward to the feedback and see what people think.
We'll be doing some demo stuff there too, with a little bit different twist, more of a focused or approaching this from an IoT standpoint with individual devices from different systems, different manufacturers, different kinds of devices to show kind of the inner workings of the basics of IBB, connection profile and so forth too. So
Yeah, that's in the 4:15 section, Tristan and Tracy and
Yep.
Well, it was going to be Keith, but now it's going to be Danielle, I think.
I'll bring her on. I'll bring Daniel on.
And Dan Bellows. So there'll be that 4:15 section will be yet more evidence of code and devices working together under the banner of IBB. And then you bring in Danielle on. So Keith is sick and apparently won't be there for demonstrating the Facil AI component, but we'll work that into that 4:15 section. But then at 4:30, Danielle has agreed to help, along with Glenn Almendinger, sort of facilitate an industry panel to talk about, well, as we say here, industry adoption, but it's kind of taken on that supply and demand dynamic of, okay, now that we've got evidence of success and we've got the Linux Foundation air cover and endorsement and processes, and we've got, another year of under our belts or behind us. So Danielle, have you figured out what you're going to focus on for that session?
My goodness, that's a lot of it's a heavy question there.
Not to put you on the spot.
I think it's really just about the technology exists, and there's a lot of question of what's the next steps of actual adoption. I mean, really, if you look at any industry, who is the targeted audience that's going to adopt first, and then how do we enable them to get the message out that this works, that this is a real viable solution that's going to make a difference in our industry, and really focus on how do we leverage the people that are supporting us.
Speaking of the people, and I forgot to mention this, so Danielle and Glenn will be sort of facilitating it, but this will be this section where we'll have probably the largest group that comes up onto the stage, and it'll be a lot of it'll be the people who have been doing demos, but it'll also be the usual suspects from Monday Live that are in attendance. So it'll be the Jim and Steve and
Pretty
Anno.
much everybody, pretty much everybody on this screen, right?
Yeah. So is Anno here? Can we talk about
No,
Anno for a minute? No, he's not
since
here.
he's not here, so we can talk about him.
So this will be an opportunity for the think tank group that is the Monday Live group to say a lot of the things that some of you just said, and to have again Glenn and Danielle be the ringmasters.
So, what do you think of that flow, guys, and Danielle as well?
Looks, looks, looks to me like you're gonna have a lot to get into. What is it, 2 hours? Yeah, it's a lot of content and there's going to be wanting a lot of discussion, so kudos to you to try and get that much. It looks like a day seminar to me.
I want to know who's going to be sitting in the back with the stoplight that says, no, your time is up. You got to get off stage. That's what I'm wondering.
My only concern is that I don't think you're giving the Linux Foundation enough time to tell their story. I think 15 minutes, I mean, 5 minutes is going to be spent maybe just explaining, introducing everybody and, showing the agenda and talking briefly about the agenda. And I really want to make sure that the Linux Foundation has an opportunity to really tell their story well, so that people can really appreciate what a difference maker it's going to be.
And I'm pretty sure that we just promised Jory that that's our opening section would be at least 20 minutes. So we've got some adjustment to do on the on the timing, but that's
I
good.
think the way to do that is also to make sure that throughout this agenda, we point things back to Linux, to this new formation of C4SV and the Linux actually gives us a lot more capability to do things as an industry. So, so it'll be referred to all the time.
On that note too, Rick, Anto and I were talking before the meeting started, and I'd really like to get some pre-spin on the fact that Linux is going to be there at a high level. And let's do a bit of an intro, because I think it could be the difference between whether somebody actually comes to the summit or not.
Right.
So I'm hoping that you'll write that. And if you haven't got the time to write it, let me ghostwrite it for you.
Did you get the outline of what I sent earlier today?
I did.
And I'll get a link of some additional background on Jory, because there's a couple of paragraphs on her and a couple of links for people to be able to watch some of her YouTube performances.
Would you be able to send, if you can send me an email, I can turn your email into a post. Maybe that's the easiest way to get it. We're running out of time. I'm not sure if you noticed, Sunday's coming quick.
The answer to that is yes. So, Danielle, you've been listening to this conversation. I think you've been at the previous summit, I think, at least the Chicago one. What's your view on what we're putting together here as a program, as just the concept of everything and all of the new bits?
Yeah,
Give us your perspective.
I'm very excited for having a representative from Linux. I think that it definitely shows our dedication to looking into other industries and branching out and being open-minded of someone else can do things that we haven't figured out yet, so we need to bring them in. I definitely think that is going to be, I assume that that's going to be received very favorably within our industry. My only thought is there enough time for questions? Because at previous summits, there was a lot of discussion. Do we want to just wait until the end for that? Or is there a way to intermix it in and let the audience have kind of breaks to really talk about and digest what's happening?
There's not going to be any breaks in the schedule itself, as you can see. but I'm sure there's going to be sort of questions that will pop up, and also there's a networking that starts at 5, and so it's not a if the conversation continues, we can just sort of continue. The thing that's sort of dictating when we need to end is when we need to head over to the bar and start watching the game. Right, Rick? So we have a bit of buffer time for discussion.
We will try to be tight with what we're going to be doing in terms of talking points and sort of some rehearsal. But to your point, Danielle, the whole how to make people aware of the fact that they've already gone over by 2 minutes is going to be critical, because this has got to be highlights of things that we're doing. In 2 hours with that much to do and that kind of newsworthiness, it's going to be, we've just got to stick to the high points of everything. But yeah, I'm sure we'll go a little bit over, and my objective will be to try and work with everybody that is presenting, because we've got a bunch of people coming on and off stage, and Pete's got what looks like the 15-minute session, but we already know that that's only going to be more like 7.5. But working with everybody to try and be really tight is going to be important, and to just hit highlights. Part of that scope and on-ramps piece at the beginning will be reiterated again with here's how you get involved, or here's how you get more questions answered. In that discussion we just had with the Linux Foundation, they're going to have a website up. Of course, our website is up, but there's going to be we're going to have a couple different places where people can go to get more answers, get more specifics about the Linux Foundation, and to find out what they can do to be more involved or take advantage of the things that have been discussed. So we're using this as almost like like I said, highlights and a teaser. There will also be, I almost forgot this. There will be announcing the dates of follow-up sessions for what's actually called community formation meetings. That'll be question and answer and how to get involved. But we'll be talking about what the dates of those are, because there's going to be a regularly scheduled more things to put on your calendar, folks. Meetings with the Linux Foundation, specifically about the C4SB working groups and projects.
So we have about 10 minutes left on this call, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to play that video again, and then we'll just open it up to a discussion about, and maybe folks in the audience can chime in with their thoughts while they're watching the video. So here we go.
The cheese has moved. Remember the black box phones? We were trapped. Trapped in a closed system to wires. Trapped to desks. Trapped to payphones. Then freedom. Connecting anywhere, anytime. Open source is everywhere, driven by Linux. Yet buildings are black boxes, automated but not smart. The owner's data is trapped. Until now. The black box is gone. Open with the interoperable building box. Connection profiles. BIM and digital twins. Get it. Use it.
Okay, so what any additional thoughts to improve this summit? Also, and any other sort of topics like how should we think about the impact of this move to the industry throughout the rest of the year and to the future?
For the future, best of my knowledge, you're not really limited on Sunday, right? Why did you choose to limit it to 2 hours? One of your summits from the past sort of fitted into 2 hours, but God, you got enough subject material there, definitely for a day seminar. The other thing that's available is there's still all kinds of openings on Wednesday if you wanted to carry any of that over. That might be another idea. Give you something to do in your spare time.
Spare time, what is that?
Can you shut off his microphone?
Anto, can you speculate on who's going to show up?
Well, it's always the whole idea of the summit, doing the summit on the Sunday of AHR, has always sort of meant that we're essentially targeting vendors that are there exhibiting, and integrators and channel people that apply the products that the vendors have. That's always been kind of the two main focus groups of people. We do see a little bit of consulting engineers and building owners and operators and facility managers, but generally it's those two, vendors and integrators. Does that make sense?
It does. Who would we like to see to have the most impact? Is the channel the most important thing? Are controls vendors the most important thing? Owners? Who's gonna drive this change into the industry?
Well, putting aside the building owners, which generally speaking don't attend AHR, it's not really their thing.
Right.
I mean, personally, from my perspective, the vendors and integrators are key to sort of the change in behavior, especially when there's sort of a new way of doing things.
Right.
So, Rick, I know because you're involved specifically with C4SB and now with Linux Foundation, assuming responsibility. I think it would be valuable to go to the major suppliers, walk the show, go to Honeywell's booth, Johnson's booth, Siemens, Schneider, all of them, and introduce yourselves and talk about it. Some of them maybe will show up for the summit, but I'm assuming a lot of them won't. But if there's any kind of a handout or something you could provide them and contact information, it could just be a one page, it could be, or just develop a card, right, with contact information on it that you can hand to people. Because I think generally those companies will have senior people at the booth, at least from the product management side. And so take advantage of that and go market this story.
Appreciate that. And any help and introductions that anybody might want to have to that. We're going to have a little bit of on Monday. We talked about Jory will be there at the booth, but we're actually going to have her at the booth for a little while, and then we're going to go on a tour of some of the key booths. And Kennedy, myself, and Jory is the way we've been thinking about it. But we have a little entourage that kind of goes around and yeah, to have a card. Explain a little bit about, to Jory about what the different vendors, she'll probably be able to tell from how big the booths are, of how important the vendor is. But we're going to do that. And then, yeah, It's just a different positioning when you've got the Linux business card. It's different, and it's not speculation anymore. It's actually real. So, and again, I appreciate some of the things you've done, others have done, to start to set up some of those conversations with the large entities, and one that'll go nameless. Somebody I haven't seen if whether he's registered or not, but we've already had conversations from some of the largest players in the industry, and so we have confidence that they're interested. And again, the presence of Linux just kind of changes the positioning.
I think we got to get that Linux message out there, though. I think that's an important piece of the pre-spin for this. So if you and I can work on that, Rick, I'd appreciate that.
Thought, this extension to that is to plan a webinar. Without crash rate, so you'll, please to learn more about this. We're going to have a webinar on such and such a date in which we'll talk about the whole Linux Foundation C4SB initiative. Again, because there's, it's not clear to me that a lot of the players that we want to have attend this thing, some Smarter Summit, aren't going to be at the Smarter Summit. So as a way to give an action for these companies to respond to, if we host a webinar, I think that would be, I think you could get pretty good attendance.
Actually, just building on that, Steve, how is this going to be recorded? Because you're gonna have a great capture there in this 2 hours. Have you got that all organized that it's going to be captured in film?
Film.
I can't stop using the word.
Yeah, the plan right now is to have 2 or 3 different cameras. 2 will be stationary, 1 will be handheld. One of Tristan's guys will be there with walking around and getting some shots. We're going to try and capture the audio, but we'll definitely get video. We don't have coordinated to do a live stream. We don't know what the connectivity is for that, but that could happen. But we will at least have we'll have video evidence, and someone talked about my brother is actually in video production and photography, and so he's going to take on this year some of the editing and posting as quickly as we can. So trying to cover that base.
I think that'll be an important piece, and how we all share it, I think, will be good. We're certainly willing to help to do that. Also release AI on, I think, again, release AI on the script of the, because that's the problem, is when you drag all that talking over 2 hours, it's pretty confusing. But if you let AI walk through it, they can condense it and kind of pull out some of the particular points, like we've been doing with the Monday Live. So I think we'll offer to do that if you want to take a
That'd be
run
great.
at condensing.
That'd be great. That'd be great. All right, we need to wrap this show. Thanks for Kimon joining us. He's already gone. Thanks for Danielle, and wishing Keith rapid recovery. Other than that, we'll get the video out tomorrow, Wednesday, and have a great week, and see you all in Orlando.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
See you.
Bye.
Right.
Bye.
Bye.